Welcome to the hottest real estate topics on the planet, keeping you up to date with all the creative ways to buy and sell real estate without bank qualifying, so anyone can build real income starting today. Here is another great show with Dealmaker Bill and Pete the Rookie.
All right, here we are at another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies. Good morning,
Rookies. Peter. Rookies forever. No.
Yeah, we talked about
Not
that
forever.
last episode. Number 358. We're trying to get, by now you should be an elevated real estate person. If you've been around
But what comes after rookie?
I have no idea. Rookettes.
No, that's girls. Okay. Later, we're going to figure out the pecking order. There's rookies. It ends with pros. We got to be a couple things in the middle so we can get raises and promotions. All right, we'll do that later.
The real reason.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Sure.
All right, here we are. Episode number 359, 359 episodes.
Yeah.
Amazing. Today's episode title is 4-Hour Creative Real Estate Weeks for Gargantuan Profits.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the description. Time and money are not related. In this single episode, we plan to unveil a game-changer approach for creative real estate entrepreneurs to maximize your real estate profits while minimizing your time commitment. What we are about to introduce to you is an innovative concept that challenges the traditional notion of a time-intensive real estate business, which will soon get you to forget working endless hours each week for low or no results. The secrets you're about to hear will reveal how to streamline your processes, leverage automation, and adopt efficient strategies to achieve gargantuan profits in just 4 hours per week. Interesting.
Yeah, the 4 hours sounds pretty good. Well, I bet there's a lot of people doing 4 hours but sucking at it. So if we do 4 hours the right way,
there you go.
That should work. Let's see what you got there, Mr. Hoffer.
No more sacrifices. No more sacrificing your valuable time for minimal returns. If you're ready to unlock the potential of creative real estate into your life and transform your income for real, this 4-hour creative real estate weeks for Gargantuan Profits podcast episode you can afford, pun intended, to miss. You can't afford to miss. Ready to revolutionize your real estate business and reclaim your life by minimizing your time spent while maximizing your financial success. Well, I botched that up at the end, didn't I?
I got it. But anyways, the important part is what comes next. Yeah. Explain that, Ricky.
All right, so let's do the housekeeping stuff first for all of our staff, so I don't have to, mostly Emma, so she has to give me a hard time. So first of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for all of our support, all of your support. Make sure you subscribe to us wherever you're watching or listening. Make sure you like us if you're on one of the social medias. Also, leave us a review if you can, wherever you're watching or listening. We really like those. Even the bad ones. There are some bad ones. They're still talking about them damn first 50 episodes we did about the static and the bad news. We're at 350 episodes, and I'm still getting reviews about those. I should take them down, but
yeah, I think it was only like 2025. Maybe we figured it out eventually. Yeah, just take them down. Whatever's in those, we've covered somewhere. They're not missing anything.
Yeah. In any event, make sure you subscribe to us. Also, in the description, there is a link to where you can actually get help from what we're talking about today. A little podcast secret. okay, or event secret, and you know this because we've talked about it. The podcasts are supposed to tell you what to do, not necessarily how to do them.
Yeah.
And the point is that I guess my wife is printing something.
Oh no!
All of a sudden, the printer's running, and she's going to come busting in here in a minute, not thinking about what she's doing. Anyways, so the podcasts are meant to tell you what to do. The links are to show you how to do it. Okay, because we can't show you how to do it in an hour podcast. That would be disrespectful to you and your time. Okay, so that's it. Here we go. Let's start with this today, Peter. Time and money are not related to each other. We just think or have been trained to think this way. $25 per hour to work.
Yep.
Right? So, does that make sense to you?
Oh yeah. Well, that's what you get when you have a jobbity job. You know, I still have my music lesson business on the side, and it's like, you know, time and hour. You know,
Right.
That's how jobs go. But that's not wealth, is it?
No.
That's not what we're talking about.
Yeah, I actually, we cover that in the next episode, number 360, the difference between income and wealth. All right, so society's conditioned us to associate time with money. We are conditioned to exchange time for money at a young age. Our first gig as kids usually paid us hourly. Right? Then we get older, and it turns to getting paid a salary. 1 year is worth blah.
Yeah, no matter how many hours. And then they ramp up the hours, and your money per hour goes down. I've seen that. Yeah, no, thank you.
My wife goes through that. It is even common in our society to say time equals money. But today, you'll soon see it's not true. What is further magnifying the problem of learning skills that require we are present to make money. So a plumber, it has to be a plumber to make money. Right?
Can't do that online, can you?
No. You know, like my wife is a consultant. You have to show up and consult to make money.
Right.
Right. You're a music teacher. You have to show up to like. So you charge. What do you charge per hour? Half hour you charge, right?
Well, yeah, 28, 56 an hour. Yeah.
So to make $56 an hour, you need to be there.
Yep.
And that's what most people are trained. Now, a lot of industries. I'm not saying that we should not be there, because COVID actually did that to us, right? It made a lot of us not there. We're on Zoom calls and we're not really.
Yeah, but we're somewhere.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we're at the other end. Yeah, we're still there.
Not all industries are like that, but we're made to believe that everything is like that. We never really come out of that little cocoon, right?
Yeah.
So all of this type of thinking has a glass ceiling, right?
Yeah, it's only so many hours.
Yeah, because after all, we only have so many hours, like you just said, a week. 168 hours a week or something?
168.
Yeah, the one thing I remember, I think I was reading Kiyosaki's book some years ago. I don't remember what was something. I read too much, so and I go in phases. I'm back into one of those phases again. I've been kind of entertaining myself, but I remember asking myself, what's the difference between my 168 hours and Donald Trump? This was before he was president, right? I mean, I'm not talking about him as a politician. I'm talking about him as a real estate person, or Kiyosaki, or any one of them. You know, like I write a lot, so I think to myself, how the hell does like Lee Child or Connolly or any of those writers? I mean, they pump out books. I mean, they just put their time in. Yeah. Right. So I mean, I know there's mornings like this morning where I woke up this morning. I write an email every day to my list. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you've ever done anything like that, but that's not easy to do. Because, and I have Sean, my other partner, he just hired a pretty high power consultant to help us with some stuff. Mm-hmm. And they were talking about, he came back to me and he was like, bragging to me about how good my results are, because my open rates and my click rates are exorbitant. Mm-hmm. But it's because I'm in tune with I'm always trying to do better, but I'll wake up in the morning, like this morning I woke up and I knew exactly, I had a topic and I just, before we got on here, I spent a half an hour trying to, because otherwise I'll do this podcast and then 2 hours from now I'm going to write and I'll be going, oh, what the hell was I thinking?
Yeah. It's amazing how smart we are when we wake up in the morning, huh?
Yeah. So, anyway, so coming back to time and money, so I could write an email and take a half hour, 45 minutes, right? So I have to put some time into it, but a lot of times that email gets people to go look at my stuff, or, I don't always write them to sell something, but the point is that they want, if I'm talking about something that I've done or helped somebody else with, they may want the same results. Mm-hmm. So they start asking questions.
Yep.
Right? So, it's the old, we're going to get into this. All right. So we only have so many hours in each day, which is where we were at. So, which is why I want to help all of our listeners kick the time money habit to the curb, like I say, like a cheating spouse. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. But before we explore Tim Ferriss's 4-hour work week concept, let's talk about this. Let's say the entire creative real estate business comes down to 5 jobs.
Okay.
1 would be finding motivated leads. Mm-hmm. 2 would be contacting and pre-screening those leads, mostly by texting.
Yeah.
Could be mail. Could be signs, right? Mm-hmm. 3, doing the closing call where you make the deal. Mm-hmm. And I want to clarify that a little bit, because it's not technically where you make the deal. The closing call isn't where you make the deal. The closing call is where you get the agreement of what you're going to do during the deal. You still need to do, which is step number 4. Step number 4 is due diligence and paperwork, or the contracts. Yeah. So 3 and 4 are where you actually make the deal, right? So 3, you're going to talk, is the closing call, where you're going to talk to the seller about what they're willing to do. Once you get agreements, then you're going to go out and do 4, which is due diligence and your paperwork, and that's where you make the deal. You make the deal in paperwork.
Yeah,
right?
You have to verify the house and the details, because you can't always tell that on the phone.
Right.
Especially when they show pictures of the exterior of the house. You don't know what the inside looks. Yeah, all that stuff.
So 5 is selling it for a big fat check. Mm-hmm. Now here's something very innovative and different for most of our listeners today. See, if you look at the I can't say his name, Pareto, the Pareto rule, the guy that
the Italian guy?
Yeah, Pareto, the 80-20.
Yeah.
Which
I don't know the spelling, but if I knew the spelling, I would get it to you. But we know the guy.
I looked it up, so I know. So it's Pareto, Pareto, Pareto.
Pareto, yeah. I just heard somebody else on the news channel. They're going, and you need your sales team because 20% of your sales guys are making 80% of the sales. They're still using that. That was yesterday.
Yep.
They're probably doing a wild guess, but it's probably not very far off.
Right. Which means, just what you said, 80% of your results or money come from 20% of your effort or your work. Right? That's what you just said, right?
Yeah.
So
I wish I knew the parts of the things that I do that I shouldn't do anymore. It's like my friend who plays tennis. The second game was always better than the first. Yeah. So he skips the first one and goes straight to the second one. Boom, boom.
Stop.
Okay, back to the podcast.
You should soon realize this. A, and there's 3 points. If you're trying to do all the jobs by yourself, all 5 of them, you can only really put about 20% of your time into each one, so that everything or the whole process gets completed.
You're right.
So if you have 5 jobs and you're trying to do it by yourself without any help, without a coach, without assistance, without anything, you're just giving each task 20%.
Right.
Right? So you're not giving it, you're not burning the ships and saying, today I'm gonna make a deal today. You can't do it.
Well, you really can't focus. I've had times when I've had just too many jobs, and you can't focus on any one of them really, really well to do a great job. So they all kind of meander aimlessly. So that would be this. You can't really get amazingly good at any one of those because I got to go do the other one now. And it's always a little haphazard or something.
I can tell you with absolute positive 1,000%, 100,000% certainty that this is what happens to every single real estate entrepreneur that I've ever met. Number one, they're looking for motivated leads.
Yeah.
Number two, contacting and pre-screening the leads, usually by texting. Those 2 things take up most of their week.
Yep.
They never get to making phone calls or doing calls. And the biggest reason is because they're trying to figure out how to automate it. So that's kind of like saying, I'm going to learn how to drive a car. I'm 16 years old and I'm going to go get my driver's license.
Yep.
And you go out to your yard and you go underneath the hood of the car and you start taking apart the car. You start taking apart the engine because you need to learn about the car, right? Because you're going to drive it. So you need to learn about the car. Or you take the wheels off and you start looking at or you jack it up and you crawl underneath it and you look at the exhaust and the transmission and the drive axles. Right? What does any of that have to do with driving a car?
Nope.
That's what it's like for creative real estate investors when they get into this lead finding and scripts and videos. That's exactly what it's like for them. It's like they're trying to learn how to drive the car, but they're taking apart the engine, they're taking the wheels off, they're crawling underneath the car, and they're trying to figure the car out before they do anything. Right? So they spend 80% of their time is on this stuff. So you were asking before, I wish I knew which 80% I could get rid of.
Yeah, right.
Right?
And that's part of it there.
So I'm going to give you that answer before we leave this podcast.
Okay.
Right? Yep. So we're back to which 80% of your results or money come from, 20% are effort. So you should soon realize, number one, or A, as I labeled it, I'm repeating it, if you're trying to do all the jobs by yourself, all 5 of them, you can only really put 20% of your time into each one so that everything or the whole process gets completed. Because you have to do the whole process to do a deal.
Yep.
B, so that means, what you just said, you're not 100% focused on any one of these jobs. You're too dispersed and not going to be good at getting maximum results.
Yep.
I'm going to divert for a second again because I'm going to go find my email I just wrote today. I'm in the middle of writing. So here it is. 2 sayings. Whatever you focus on expands. Whatever you see, you can create more of.
Cool.
How are those little sayings?
Yeah.
Whatever you focus on expands. Whatever you see, you can create more of.
Nice.
Right?
It sounds familiar, but it's different.
Yeah. So, if you have too much of the 80% and you see it, what are you creating more of?
Yeah. You're back under the car, seeing if the oil plug is tight.
It's a good example, right?
Yeah.
You're trying. I mean, what you need to do is you need to know how to drive, not take the car apart.
Well, they're different jobs, aren't they?
Yeah.
Mechanic, driver, two different jobs. Finding leads, talking to them, closing, selling, those are all different jobs.
Exactly.
We try to, it's like going to work and like, oh, geez, nobody showed up today. I got to do all the jobs.
Which brings us to C, this actual linear thinking creates booms and depressions with regard to your income.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, income goes up and it goes down. Mm-hmm. And it's never consistent enough for you to quit your current job or your current income. Because of the way you're thinking. You're spending too much time on the 80%, or the 80% is making too much noise in your life. And I have been, I could finish the rest of the podcast just talking about my journey since 2020 with COVID, that started with me working at the church, running 3 businesses at the time, and being dispersed all over the place, thinking that I could phase 2 everything and get people to do stuff for me.
Yeah.
Which is 100% true. It can happen, but I wasn't ready. So COVID came, and I decided on a Wednesday night, when I found out the church was going to be shut down, and I found out my wife was already in Florida, and all my family, I was the only one in Connecticut other than my kids. Mm. And they're all a little bit snowflakey about that stuff. So I wasn't going to see them at all.
Yep.
Right? So I got in my car Friday morning at noon, and by Saturday at noon, I drove straight through, smoked a half a box of cigars, drove straight through, and drove to my sister's house. And then my wife met me there because my wife was 2 hours away. And we all stayed at my sister's house in Cape Coral, Florida, for I think I was there almost 2 months.
Yeah, at least, sure.
When I unplugged, it started to make me realize, I was working a couple hours a day and getting more done. Before, when I was home, I was working 14-hour days, thinking I was doing all this stuff. And I was now, because I wanted to spend time with my sister, we would do field trips. We would go to because you couldn't leave your car. It was COVID time, right? Cape Coral was, like everywhere else, was locked down. You drove for an hour, you didn't see people. But there were some things like Dairy Queen was open. There was 1 or 2 people in Dairy Queen, and we would go there. Or we would go to Walmart. We'd take field trips, just to get out of the house, like once or twice a week, right? And it was just, so I would want to do these things with her. So my point is that that was the beginning of my journey of what I'm talking about today. And I'm still on that journey because I'm looking to take 4 months off next month. I just took 6 weeks off, and it didn't phase my life at all. Mm-hmm. Other than I had a frickin' blast. Right?
Yep.
So what I'm talking about here is lack of focus. If you're trying to do all 5 jobs, you have lack of focus. Right? Mm-hmm. So here's the thing. Listen to what I'm going to tell you. This is very explicitly written. And I'm not going to dwell on it because, again, I dwell on some of this stuff because these are what I feel is important. But others listening may not. They may not even made it this far in the podcast yet because they think I'm taking too long.
Yeah.
If you're not focused, you can't retrain the outside world to see your ideas and plans. It is not focused enough to make the changes you want. So hang on one second. I don't know what the hell's going on this morning, but they're texting me. So does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm sure it'll clarify. Keep going.
If you're not focused, I'm sorry for the interruption. If you're not focused, You can't retrain the outside world to see your ideas, plans, or your plans, right? It is not focused enough to make the choices you want. Simply put, what was that thing that went around for a while? The law of attraction.
Sure.
So how do you get the law of attraction? How does it work? How does it physically, mechanically work? Just what I'm talking about right now. Your ideas and your plans train the outside world on what you're looking for, and it gives it to you. You're working against you at this point. If you're dispersed, you're working against you. Only you can change you. Only you have enough force to handle you. Nobody else. I mean, there are people that are in this world that are the effect of everyone else, and they don't have enough horsepower, and those are just troubled people.
Yep.
And we all have these troubles. You know, we were talking about this before, subconscious mind type stuff. But technically your subconscious mind is there because you allowed it to be there. You believe it. You have some trust in it.
Oh, it's a great quote on that? This is from, I think it's from Dianetics, that book. You don't have to listen to it.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
You get these ideas, you get these feelings. Well, I don't know, I can't, I hate it. Like, hey, don't listen to it. Just go ahead.
Right.
Don't
now
have
watch
to
this.
listen to it.
Now watch this. We talked about this in episode 358. See, if your quantum leap is big enough, like 10x or 20x, you'll have new rules, processes, and ways to do things. But if there's no quantum leap, like you're just trying to 10x or 2x, you're just using force. 10x is working on yourself, 2x is working on the business. Example, 2x is trying to optimize the horse and buggy. Getting millimeters and possibly inches for your effort.
Yep.
10x is stepping back and inventing the car, like Henry Ford did.
Yep.
Getting miles for the same effort. So if you're making 50,000 and you want to make 100, and this is not, some of this is Grant Cardone's 10x rule stuff. He goes into it, but he talks about what to do. I'm talking more about how to do it, right? Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy, they wrote the Who, Not How. The other one is, what is it called? Gap and Gain or something like that. And then he's got a 10x book that he came out with. So you should go check those books out because they're really good books. And this is just my compilation of, because I've read those books over the last couple of years. And they just keep coming back to me because they work. Right?
Well, they're good ideas, that's for sure.
Right. So let's say you're riding a bicycle to work every day.
Yeah.
2x would be like, I'm going to motorize it. So instead of going 5 miles an hour, you can now do 20 miles an hour. 10x would be like, I'm getting a car. I'm going to learn how to drive it.
Yeah.
See, it's a whole different set of rules. It's a whole different environment. It's a whole new space for you to be in. And what happens is, because getting a car will make your life so much easier. In other words, if it takes you an hour and a half to get to work every day, right, because you're driving a bicycle, or you know what I mean? And now you get a car and it takes you 10 minutes, it makes your life easier. So the 10x is the 10x type thinking, or that quantum leap actually makes your life easier once you accomplish it.
Yep.
Right? So the way you do this is to take a look at the 80-20 rule. Well, let me go back to my notes. So again, like I said, going back to the 80-20 rule and how this ties in, suppose you had a team that did the 80%, right? You had a team that did the 80%, so you can concentrate on the 20%. Right? For example, the team did the finding motivated leads, pre-screening, the paperwork, and selling, and all you had to concentrate on was two things: making deals with sellers and making deals with buyers. It's a pretty interesting thought, right? There's your 20% right there. So you ask, what's 80%, what's 20%? The 20% is making deals with sellers and making deals with buyers. Everything else is 80%.
Yeah, it's all the stuff that leads up to it. In a way, it's the $10 an hour jobs.
Yeah, sometimes. But let's go back. Let me get my notes out here. So there's 5 things, right? Mm-hmm. Finding motivated sellers is 1. 2, contacting and pre-screening those leads. 3, doing the closing call for acquisition. 4, due diligence and paperwork. And 5, selling it for big profit. So what we're talking about right here is we're talking about doing number 3, the closing call, and we're talking about number 5, selling it for big profits. When you just concentrate on making deals with sellers and making deals with buyers. And if you did just that and didn't have to worry about all the other stuff, how much better off would you be?
Oh, sure. That's the cream of the crop.
Right. So what that means is that the 5 hours you spent daily or weekly to finding marketing lists, skip tracing them, and uploading them to a software to send them out to texts is no longer on your plate. But your staff or the automation has that task and it's off your plate. So if it takes them 10 hours, it takes them 10 hours. They have time because that's all they're doing.
Yep.
Is that one thing. Right? Or another example about how about answering those texts with nasty or rude, even stupid texts, so you can find that one motivated seller. Right? It will actually make you think that the human race is declining when you answer the texts.
Yep.
Right? And give you a bad attitude towards the motivated sellers once you find them. Right? Without you even realizing it until it's too late and you lose the deal.
Yeah.
Right? So you're spending too much time texting. Right? Because what should you be doing, Peter? What are the 2 things you should be doing? This is a quiz.
Well, it'd be better if you'd be doing closing calls to buy the properties and selling them. That's what you're aiming for, but things have to happen to get there. But if you spend the things to get there, you don't get there. So it's better to be, if you can get that set up so you can focus on, well, Ron LeGrand calls it making decisions, right?
Yeah.
You get to the point, well, like, hey, there's these 3 houses. You want to buy one of them? That one. Let's call this person and let's just do that. So it's it's a cycle. You have to go through steps to get to the end of it. But the end is where the pot of gold is. So if you get to do that and something else does the front end, you're much better off.
So wouldn't it be nice to skip all that?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So here's the thing. A staff member or automation will have all day to handle this type of work. Off your plate.
You know what's funny, though? if that's their job, they don't mind because that's all they got to do.
Right.
And they do that like, yeah, I did it. I got paid. I'm good. See you later.
Right. Right.
Going out tonight.
Yep. See, what I mean is you are left to do the $500 an hour tasks in your business and whack or eliminate, like you said, the $10 an hour crap.
Mm-hmm.
So going 10x means getting rid of the 80% that sucks your positive energy and crushes your 20% and leaves you dispersed and scattered all over the place with no or low results. Failed purposes. Right? And feeling deflated or worse, dead to it all. I can't tell you how many people over the course of my life have hit apathy.
Oh, hell yeah, easy.
Right, let me define that word.
Mm-hmm.
So apathy is lack of interest, enthusiasm, or concern. Right?
Yep.
So the derivation from the 17th century, which is French, by the way, and Greek put together, is without feeling, suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Apathy is without feeling and suffering.
Yeah. Pathos is emotion and feelings. A is without, meaning none. A pathos.
Yeah.
Yep. Not a very productive state of mind.
All right. I can hear your thoughts right about now. But Bill, I don't want to manage employees. They need to be trained and managed, and I don't want to do this. I didn't put down in my notes, but it's like, I don't want to spend the money. I don't have the money. That's the big thing. I'll do it myself because I don't have the money. And you know what? Neither do I. I don't want to manage employees anymore either. My business, and you can attest to this, Peter, my business has been stuck for almost 3 years. It's stuck. It has not grown. The only reason why my business has done good is because I sold a bunch of properties in 2021 and 2022, and I paid down a bunch of mortgages. But my business has been stuck.
Yeah.
As has many of my friends. I talked to Dave yesterday, 2 days ago, my realtor guy that used to be my acquisition manager.
Yeah.
You ought to hear him moaning. Oh my God. He's his own brokerage firm now.
Yep.
You know, he went from doing 30 deals. It's June, and I think he told me he's done 3 or something like that. He's off trying to find other things to do. He's not saying that. I just hear it in his conversation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
My business has been stuck. Can you give me the answer why? I just gave it to you. You tell me why my business... Well, first of all, have you noticed that, Peter?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
well, you have a good base, though, at least. It may not be growing, but you have a base of income from that. Yeah. I sold mine, and then I haven't put some back yet. I got close on a couple.
And I'm not making you wrong or anything, but we had these conversations. It's like, Peter, if you sell this stuff, you have to take that money and reinvest it in more real estate because you had an affluence, so don't break it. Right? And I only know it because I've done this before.
Well, the strange thing is, the years before the last 2 or 3, if you just put some effort in and some time and use your system, you could get some leads. You could buy some houses. It wasn't impossible. I was doing it. I know more now than then. Right. So I wasn't as worried about it, but then it's a little stickier.
Okay, so I'm confessing to you, my partner, one of my partners,
Yeah.
that I recently figured out that my business is stuck. I didn't realize it.
Oh.
And I'm telling you the reason why is because I don't want to manage employees. I don't want to train them, and I don't want to pay them. Because as far as I'm concerned, now I've had employees for 40 years. They have declined. Society has declined. And no disrespect, but there's people like my kids that are millennials and my other partner, Sean, who just want to push buttons and don't want to work. They think that's working, pushing buttons.
Yep.
And you know what? I've been fighting it. And I decided to change that. And that's when it changed for me. Because I had to recognize my business was stuck. So think of it this way. If you're in a state of emergency, like you make we'll say you make $1,000 a week, and it's just flatlined, and you make $52,000 a year,
Yep.
right? So let's say you make $52,000 in 2020, and you were
Right.
putting away, say $500 a week or whatever, or I don't know, $500 a month,
Yeah.
right? It's 3 years later, and you're not only not putting away that $500, but you need an extra $500. You had to get a part-time job. Because the state of emergency, or that emergency meaning that you're flatlined or leveled, is an emergency, because nothing changed, nothing stays the same. And inflation came in, gas went up to $5 a gallon for a while, or $4 a gallon. It's still $3 and change a gallon where I am. I mean, I just drove to Florida and back, and it's $3 and change a gallon.
Yep.
Between $3.25 and $3.50 a gallon.
Yeah, it's all $3.69.
I mean, I buy eggs because my wife eats a lot of eggs, and I've spent as much as $7 for a dozen eggs. She eats gluten-free bread, $7 for a loaf of bread. Right? So, I mean, I could go on and on with that, right?
We all know though. We're with you. We know.
Right?
We know.
Look at houses. Houses I was buying for $180,000. They're now $300,000.
Yeah.
Right? So having a steady income, or being, staying the same, is a state of emergency, because you're not keeping up with the expansion or growth. The only way to pro-survivally live is to expand all the time. And I'm telling you, for 3 years, I have not expanded. Well, I have in another business. I'm just saying, in my real estate business.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm doing fine. I'm doing better than ever, actually, because I'm going to, I've got other businesses. But the point is that you can't, so how many times have I looked at, right, investors, and they tell me they've been trying to do creative real estate for 5 or 10 years.
Yep.
Right?
Boggles the mind.
All right, so let's get into what I did and how I 10x'd, right? And why it's changed for me, and how I have 4-hour work weeks. So it's Creative REI Replay. I was a founder of it. So the reason why it works is because I have a list here, and if you don't, I'm not trying to sell this to you at all. I mean, there is a link in the chat if you want to use it. I'm not trying to sell this. That's not the point of this podcast. I'm telling you why it was invented. Today is like a history of why it was invented, because of where I was and where I am and how things are changing. And even so, I need one more piece of the puzzle to plug in, which I was hoping was going to happen this week, but I don't think it did. More leads because of our area, or we need to change our area. But for the most part, it has done what I needed to do, or it will do more of what I needed to do, right? So the system, first of all, automatically puts leads into this system. So I don't do that. I no longer do the first step. I no longer go try to find leads. I don't skip trace them. I don't do any of that. Creative REI Replay does that for you. Right? And it hooks them up to the right campaigns and texts to those campaigns. So it's saying what they're supposed to be saying. Then when the person answers, the person we texted responds, we have Sophie answer them. Sophie's our robot or a trained artificial intelligence robot that it took us months to train, and she sounds like she's talking as if it was me. Right? And all my Creative REI Replay users get this. Right? So I'm not responding to the texts. Right? So once the seller passes my preset AI test, right? In other words, I ask it certain questions, I pre-qualify, right? And then once it passed that test, it goes into appointment mode and makes me an appointment or you an appointment, right? So all I have to do is show up and do my appointments, right? Which, by the way, every time it makes an appointment, it texts you, not me, because you're doing the appointments, but it texts us that there's an appointment,
Right.
and it texts reminders, right? So once I'm on the phone with the seller, all I have to do is use my 2-page script, which is my script, so I do it innately, right? But I use a 2-page script, and I get 5 or 6 numbers, which the script does. I get 5 or 6 numbers. I put them into my creative real estate calculator, right? And it tells me exactly, and you do the same. If you're in the system, you do the same. And it tells you exactly which deals you can do and can't do instantaneously. It's as if you're on the phone with your seller, right? And you're doing a deal and you need advice and you put them on hold and you call me or you or Sean and say, how would I do this? We answer you and you go back. You go back to the seller and say, okay, here's what I can do. Right?
Yeah.
The calculator does that for you. And it gives you which deals you can or can't do with a red, yellow, or green light, just like a stoplight. Green is go, yellow is adjust it and you can do it, and red is run like hell, stay away. Right?
Yep.
Then once the seller agrees, so that's one side of the calculator is the math. On the left side of the calculator, there's a checklist of all the things you need to go over with the seller to make sure they know how the deal is going to happen. See, what I recognize is too many rookies feel like they don't have confidence. That's because they don't have the foresight to tell the seller what's going to happen next and after that and after that. So what I figured out is that you need to have details of the transaction and be confident when you say, Peter this, or Peter that, or Peter, the next thing that's going to happen is we're going to do this. And then after that, we're going to do this. And then after that, we need to make sure this happens. And that's where the confidence comes from your seller or your buyer. Right? Because you're telling them, you're predicting for them what's going to happen next.
Right.
So what that does is that actually stops sellers from ghosting you. Or, as we've talked about in many, many podcasts, you got to get 5 no's and 5 yeses. Right? The checklist allows you to get those 5 no's and those 5 yeses.
Ah.
Right? And more importantly is the yeses. You need to make sure you get 5 yeses because they could be just yesing you to get you off the phone and then ghost you.
Yeah, but if you ask the specific questions, they won't keep saying yes.
Right.
They can't.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think the other part of it is, if you haven't gotten to the point to those closing calls, it's like, oh, what do I do? I mean, there's about 5 things I remember. Wait a minute, which one is first? And while you're floundering with all of those in your head at once, the checklist puts them right in front of you in the sequence. So you have to think of one at a time instead of like, wait a minute, what are those 5 things I got to do? And you're trying to think of 5 things at once, and you can't think like that.
And going back to what we've been talking about this whole podcast is you're giving it 100% of your attention. And you're doing just that. You're not worried about all the other stuff.
Yeah, trying to remember what all the things are. Which one is first? Wait a minute, did I miss something? Yeah, it's right in front of you. It's awesome.
You show up, the leads are there. You show up, nowadays you show up in your appointments there.
Yeah.
Right? So now you talk to the seller, right? And the seller says, yeah, I want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
You go to the bottom and you hit save. And when you hit save, a screen pops up and it says, what do you want to do? Do you want to download the memorandum? Do you want to sell it to the customer? Or do you want to print all the paperwork for the deal?
Mm-hmm.
So if you send the memorandum to the seller, which you can do right on the phone, it sends them an email. While you're on the phone, you tell them to go to their email, open it up, and read it to me. And they sign it on their phone, on their computer, wherever they are. And it comes back into your system. Now you're ready to go do your due diligence. Which, by the way, I always say takes 5 days because I want to go do a title search. But that's because I do a lot of subject to deals and I get the title in my name. If you're doing slot deals or that kind of stuff, you don't need to worry about that. You just need to...
Yeah. Anything with an option.
Now, here's the interesting thing is, once they sign the memorandum, you go check the house out. So you've qualified them and what they're willing to do and the math. Now you need to go in the physical universe and go see the neighborhood. You need to go see the house. You need to do your comps. You need to do all of that. Most rookies do it backwards. They do all that stuff first, which is the 80% stuff that they're not supposed to be doing.
Yeah. They're thinking, gee, do I want to buy this or not? Well, it doesn't matter if the guy's not going to sell it to you.
Right.
He's not willing to sell it. What are you bothering with all that stuff for?
Right. It used to take me months, 2 or 3 months to find a house. One house.
Mm-hmm.
And that's massively changed in my 30 years. Because I wish somebody would tell me what I'm telling you right now. I wish I could have told me this a year ago. I've told you my business is stagnant for 3 years. I wish I had a coach that could do what I'm doing for you right now.
Yep.
But there wasn't one because we're actually, what Sean and I and our other 2 partners, which is David and Susan from REI Replay, what we've done is we've actually created what we call an industry disruptor. We've disrupted the industry because we've taken creative real estate and made it push button. And nobody has done that. So now you get the seller to sign the memorandum. You go do your due diligence. You go back. You come back. You're ready to go. You tell the seller, I'm ready to go. I'm going to do the documents. You go back into your calculator and you pull up the file and the deal that you agreed on in the memorandum and you push generate paperwork. It takes all the paperwork. Doesn't matter which kind of deal. You tell it which type of deal. You want to do a slot deal? It generates slot deal paperwork. You want to do subject to? It generates subject to. You want to do owner financing? It generates all the paperwork for you. Seller financing is a little difficult because you got to write a mortgage, but it generates the purchase and sales contract so you can go get that done.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The point is there's no more the 80%. You don't have to go watch a bunch of videos to learn how to fill out the paperwork. It took me years to figure out all the paperwork. And I had a coaching client the other day give me a document that I've never seen before to cloud a title. I've never seen it done this way, and it was genius. And it worked for him. Like within weeks.
Paperwork to handle a clouded title?
Yeah, he had a document that was 2 pages long, and he filed it. He told the seller that if they canceled their deal, they were being, jerks. And I think he got a few $1,000s for them to take it off. I never saw that document before, so I always learn.
Yeah.
Right? So now you generate the paperwork. Now you have the paperwork. You got the keys. Oh yeah, by the way, when you decide you want to do a subject to deal. Once you sign the memorandum, you go into the training portal that says subject to, because there's a training portal for each one, and you download the checklist for the deal. Right? And you follow the checklist on what to do next and what to do next and what to do next so you don't miss everything. And you just keep doing progress. Now, what I'm working on, which I haven't done because I haven't needed it right away because I have guys already, but what I work on is I take those checklists. Okay, so you take those checklists and you finish the deal. That's your due diligence. You finish the deal. Now you have the keys, right?
Yeah.
And you're ready to sell the property. Now, I actually have a checklist inside the system that shows you what to do with the property to sell it on a lease option. Sell it without owner. It's called house for sale, no bank qualifying.
Mm-hmm.
What I need to do is I need to put that checklist into the system like a campaign, like a drip campaign, right? And then just plug my boots in the ground into it so every day they get SMSs and they get emails and it tells them what to do and how to get the house ready. Right? I haven't done it. It would take me, a couple hours to do it, just typing everything in. But that's the next move, right? So now you get the house ready on automation. This is all push button. I mean, obviously you got to hire a boots on the ground, but once you have someone, you send them this campaign. And it's not just your boots on the ground, it's everybody on your team. And it tells everybody what to do by just adding them to the campaign. Then it gets time for you to sell the house. It works exactly the same way. You go in and get a phone number for that house because they cost like $3 for the month. You get a phone number, you attach it to that house, and then you put it in our selling system. And what you do is you take that phone number and you put it on Zillow and you put it on Craigslist and you put it on apartments.com, and the leads come in and it automatically handles all the leads, including showing the house. So the only thing that you're doing when you're selling a house is when they send you a driver's license saying that at the front door you need a government ID, a driver's license, so you know who's going in the house in case anything happens. You have a record, right? You have a driver's license. And the only other thing is when they fill out an application, you get dinged that somebody just filled out an application, and you get on the phone and you talk to your buyer.
Yep.
The rest of it is already there, working, done for you. Right? That's knocking out the 80%. That's concentrating on the 20%. It's taken me 30 years to figure out how to do that. Right? So I have a little formula here because I did that by memory. I didn't read my notes. So this is something new, Peter, because I ran into this a couple weeks ago on one of my support calls. So there is a completed offer formula. So it's
completed
not just
offer.
Yeah, so
formula.
A completed offer. There's a formula.
Okay.
Right? And that formula is math plus seller's willingness plus due diligence equals an offer. So the offer formula is math plus willingness from the seller plus the due diligence equals an offer. So when I say that your job is to make deals, that's what you're doing. You're making sure the math is correct. You're making sure that the seller is willing to do this and accepting it. The due diligence is done. That equals a completed offer.
That's good. That makes sense.
Right?
I mean, those things don't happen all at once, obviously.
No.
But when you back up and you look at it, that's the three things.
So there's your 20%.
Yeah.
Your 20% is making sure the math in the deal is correct. And we do that with money now, money monthly, money later. That's our great equalizer. Making sure there is money now, money monthly, money later. And if there's only money now, like in a slot deal, we just, at that point, we worry about, it's the same way. We worry about the seller's willingness. Are they willing to do a slot deal? And the due diligence. Like, is there really a house there that they can rent?
Yeah.
Right? equals an offer. Right? So actually, I'm going to add to that because it should really be math, seller's willingness, document, a memorandum signed, right? Or verbal agreements in writing, and due diligence equals an offer. Right?
It's good.
It's pretty cool, huh? So,
Because right toward the very end, somebody might get a little nervous, like, wait a minute, should I do this? Well, is the math okay? Is the guy willing to do it? Is the property okay and all the due diligence, liens and things? If it's okay, you have to do it. You can't just keep worrying about it. Do it.
that is your 20% right there. Your 20% is that. And then you do the paperwork. Once you do the due diligence, you do the paperwork. So how do you get rid of the 80% and concentrate on the 20%? And we just talked about that because all that other stuff we've now made automated. It's all 100% on it. Now, do you have to pay attention to it? And you can't just set it and completely forget it. I mean, you gotta check things and you gotta make sure they're working. And but instead of spending 5 hours a day, you can spend 5 minutes a day. Even if you spend 50 minutes a day, it's better than 5 hours a day. Right? So the point is that it's all automated, and nobody has done that. That's why we're saying that we have created a system interrupter, because the industry's not used to that. It's never been done before. Right? Push button. So at the end of the day, all this automation covers the 80% of the work you don't need to do, and allows you to do your 20% with 100% attention and skill. And that makes Gargantuan creative real estate deals. And now your time is worth 500 plus per hour or more. I mean, if you really wanted to, which I will eventually do, but I'm not going to do right now, is I created. Remember when we created the job position, admin secretary?
Yeah.
You can hire a VA a couple hours a day to go through your system and just make sure all this stuff is working every day. Make sure people are making, make sure things are happening. You don't have to, but you could if you're that worried about it. Right?
Well, what makes sense is you would do it yourself at first, but when you get busier with just doing the 20% work and making money like that, then it's easy to put the admin person in because you don't need to do it then.
Let me ask you this question. This is just something that just popped in my head. So 4-hour work week.
Yeah.
Right. So if you do what I'm talking about, you could take 2 appointments a day, right? Or you could say you took 2 appointments an hour, not even a day. That would mean you would have 8 appointments a week, right?
Yeah.
So in a 4-hour work week, you could make 8 offers, technically, or 6. Even if the seller's not willing, you still make offers.
Yeah. Well, you have to make them. You have to make a few before they get accepted.
Right.
So you make them.
So if you made 8 offers a week, that would be 40 offers a month.
32. Well, 4.3, 35.
No.
Well,
8 offers times 4.3. Yeah, 35. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. Okay. So
I think 5.
Yeah, so 35 offers a month. Do you think you would buy some?
average.
Do you think you would buy some deals then?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you have to make offers to make deals, and that's a pretty good amount.
And that's what I'm talking about, the 4-hour work week making gargantuan profits, because you're doing the 20% that counts. In the system, you're not doing anything. All you're doing is paying us the money to set it up for you. Oh, yeah, by the way, you'll do an hour onboarding call once you buy the system. and we will our staff will go over with you step by step on a Zoom call in your account and set it up the way you want it to be set up, so there's no technical setup at all. We do it all for you. And if you need another onboarding call, they're unlimited. You get an hour immediately to get everything set up. We do not put leads in your account until our staff goes in there and sets it up with you on the phone. You know, your schedule, your phone numbers, all that kind of stuff. And she does it with you. And until that happens, we don't turn anything on. She does it with you on the call, and then usually what happens is you go a week or two and you go back and do another onboarding call, and you'll understand things more. Make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah,
all right, Peter. So we're going to end off for today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. Hopefully, you had some realizations while you're with us today. I know I do when I write them. Don't forget to subscribe to wherever you're watching us or listening to us. Don't forget to like us or dislike us if you don't like us. Leave a comment, and don't forget to go into the description of where you're listening to us or watching us and click the link and go check out the tool that we're talking about called Creative REA Replay. Okay? Over and out. Oh, next week, well, it's next week for us, but next episode, which is podcast number 360, is called Are You Ever Tongue-Tied When Talking to Real Estate Sellers?
No. Are you ever tongue-tied? No. Are you ever tongue-tied? No. Yeah.
All right, so we're over and out. Flourish and prosper this week. And, yeah, there you go. And Peter giving the sign. Flourish and prosper. And we'll chat with you on episode number 360.
Thanks for tuning in to the hottest real estate topics on the planet with Bill and Pete. If you want to continue learning how to buy and sell real estate without money or credit, head over to flippinghouses.club for some cutting-edge real estate wealth tools. Or contact us at info@flippinghouses.club.